Ready? Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It being 7:30 on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, let's begin our town council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we please have a moment of silence for all those who serve in our military, here and abroad, and for their families? Thank you.
So, Brian, you there? Okay, thank you. Yes, sorry about that.
Clerk Semino, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Counselor Barrica.
Here.
Counselor Flaherty.
Here.
Counselor Hume.
Here.
Counselor Mackin.
Here.
Counselor Maglio.
Here.
Counselor O'Brien.
Present.
Counselor Reynolds.
Here.
Counselor Ringus.
Here.
Counselor Ryan.
Here.
All present.
Thank you very much. We do have a council member who is participating remotely this evening. Counselor O'Brien is on the phone. Therefore, all votes will be by roll call this evening. We have a big agenda before us with a lot of important announcements, so I'd like to start off with our BELD update from General Manager Bill Batigi, who's joined us. I know many of us have been reading and seeing in the news about increasing electricity costs, so thank you so much for being here, Mr. Batigi, to provide the council, by extension the residents, with an update on how BELD manages this.
Thank you. And as you said, there's been a lot in the news and a lot of concern, and we've been getting a lot of phone calls about electric rates. National Grid came out about a month ago and announced they're going to have a 64% rate increase starting December 1st. It's really doubling of their energy rate. And I want to explain why and how Braintree is impacted by all that. So just a quick overview, a little history. Back in the late 1990s, the state legislation deregulated investor-owned utilities, required them to sell their power plants. The thought was that independent power producers would buy those plants, repower them with highly efficient natural gas generation, lowering the cost of electricity. And the investor-owned utilities would buy power from those in private generation companies. And that all happened. And with fracking, there was a period where natural gas got really cheap and energy got really cheap. So fast forward today, things have changed. The second piece of that legislation that's real important is investor-owned utilities were required to go out every 6 months for bid to buy energy, wholesale energy, and resell it to their customers. That was part of the deregulation. So that happens every 6 months. National Grid goes out in like September for a December start. Eversource is going out for bid right now for a January 1st start. So National Grid's announced their rate increase. Eversource will be in the next few weeks. So why that happens is when all this new natural gas generation was built, there was no increased pipeline capacity to bring that needed natural gas into New England. So you have these power plants all competing for the same natural gas molecules, and there just aren't enough. So these are two fuel mix charts. This is the fuel that powers all the generation, including renewable, in New England. And I just gave you 2 days. One day was yesterday in the fall, and you can see 52% of the fuel is natural gas, 26 is nuclear, and then there's some imports in hydro and renewable. The issue is in the wintertime, the natural gas gets consumed by homeowners heating their homes. So there really isn't enough natural gas left to power the power plants. So this was just a day in January, nothing special about it, in 2022, last January, same time of day, 8 o'clock in the morning, And you could see there wasn't enough natural gas, so 25% of the fuel being burned in New England was oil, and 3% was coal. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. So in the winter, oil and coal are very expensive. Natural gas gets more expensive. So when National Grid went out to bid, they got the bids back. They were very high, and prices reflect that. They went much higher. So Braintree, switching to Braintree now, we weren't impacted by deregulation back in the 1990s. We were locally controlled, and Senator Morrissey, who drove this at the time, he represented Braintree. He understood how municipal utilities worked. He left us alone and let us run our business the way we were. Well, back in the early 2000s, Braintree Electric specifically, we started a hedging plan, a long-term hedging plan to take the volatility out of electric rates. And we were allowed to contract long-term for power. Investor-owned utilities are not. So we went down this path, and at times we paid a little over market, but we went down this path of contracting with a very diverse group of power suppliers, from hydro to nuclear to conventional power, wind, solar. And this is kind of busy to see, but all these line items you see are where we get all our power, and we buy power for up to 15 years at a time. So we're fully hedged, up over 85%. Our power supply is hedged, which takes all that volatility out of the power supply that the investor-owned utilities are dealing with. We have over 20 contracts here, and some roll off and we replace them with new contracts. So there's a lot here, but the point I'm trying to make is we really have good control of our power supply. And a subset of this, just so you understand where we're headed, is what is zero emission. So legislation was passed in 2021 requiring municipal utilities to get to 50% green by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And it's called the Municipal Light Plant Greenhouse Gas Emissions Standard. And these contracts here are a subset of that previous slide that I showed you. So in this, we have wind and solar and hydro and nuclear that make up and fall under that law that was passed, that greenhouse gas emission standard that we have to comply with. So we're well on our way. We have to be 50% renewable by 2030. We are now, and we're headed to 80% by 2025. Now, in 2030, some of these projects will roll off and we'll replace them with new ones. We're actively pursuing the offshore wind that's going down off Nantucket. So we expect to have a significant source of our power supply coming from there. So what does that mean to our power supply? To put it in perspective, National Grid's energy costs for this coming winter is 33 cents a kilowatt, which is $330 a megawatt hour. So this is what our hedging looks like between now and 2027. I'll just draw your attention to the yellow lines. You can see that this year we're hedged at 94%, at $50 a megawatt hour, or 5 cents a kilowatt hour, all the way out to 2027, where we're hedged at 88% of our power supply is all hedged, all locked in at $52 a megawatt hour, or 5.2 cents. So we're in a really good shape from an energy supply perspective. Our electric rate right now is about 14 cents a kilowatt, which obviously is very favorable to 48 cents a kilowatt that everyone around us is going to be paying this coming winter. And these are just sample bills of Braintree Electric, National Grid, and Eversource. So you can see the average customer in Braintree uses about 750 kilowatt hours a month. So their electric bill right now would be $110 for that month. National Grid, it will be $365, the same 750 kilowatt hours. That's going to happen. It's all locked in. And Eversource hasn't announced their new energy charge, but that's probably going to be up in that $360 a month range. So it's pretty scary. people, fixed incomes. We're going through our budget cycle now. We're a calendar year budget. So we may have a small increase, less than 1 cent. A cent would be a big increase for us. So I feel really good about what we've accomplished and what we're doing for the town. And I'm just happy to be able to share that with you and anyone who's watching. So that's the power supply story for Braintree Electric. I had a couple other things I wanted to go over with you real quick. We built the gas turbine power plant back in 2009. Back then, town meeting authorized us to borrow $110 million. Happy to report there's $40 million left. Be all paid off in 2028. The gas turbines now have been installed for 13 years. It's time to overhaul them, and we're in the middle of that process. They're called Engine 39 and Engine 40. So we removed Engine 39 months ago, sent it up to Montreal. Siemens bought out Rolls-Royce, so it's Siemens now. They overhauled the gas turbine, made some upgrades. It came back 2 weeks ago. We took Engine 40 out of one of the units and put Engine 39 in. That's back up and running, and Engine 40 is now up in Montreal. It'll come back in the spring, and it'll be reinstalled. Once that's done, we basically have 2 new generating units. They're good for 25,000 hours or 4,000 starts. The bonds are going to be paid off, so we should be in great shape for years to come with those power plants. The beauty of them is they're dual fuel. They burn natural gas 90% of the time when they run. We have a pipe that runs up to Citgo, and we burn ultra-low sulfur diesel if we can't get the gas. And at times, you can't get the gas, like I showed you in that slide, when it's real cold out, because the home heating customers are consuming it all. So we're still able to answer the bell and run on ultra-low sulfur diesel. So it's a big accomplishment. This is about a $6 million overhaul we're doing on these 2 gas turbines. Every time we've run for the last 13 years, we put money in our bid, and we collected that money, so we have that money. So it's all prepaid for. So it's good news. If I'm going too fast, go ahead.
Is that sole source?
Yeah, Siemens. Yeah, we can't. They have all that technology. They have to do it. Yeah, and we have a long-term service agreement with them. So in order to do this, you need to send an engine out. Well, we don't want to have the power plant down for 4 or 5 months, so we're in a lease engine program. So in one of our gas turbines right now is a borrowed engine that we pay for, prepay for.
From Siemens?
From Siemens, yeah.
Thank you.
So just a couple other quick things, and I'll take any questions. I'm kind of going fast. Electricity isn't the only thing going up, and we can control that to a great extent. Natural gas is going up, and oil's going up dramatically. That's why electricity's going up, because gas drives the cost of electricity. Well, I encourage anyone who lives in Braintree, if they can, to take advantage of converting their home heating system to heat pumps. There's a big movement to do this. The state is heavily incenting it. We're giving big rebates. Braintree Electric is also, because we want to increase our electric load and help our customers keep their costs down. So we have a heat pump program. It's called the Clean Comfort Program. A lot of customers are converting to heat pumps. We're going to have zero interest loans available, rebates available. If you have natural gas, the state has even more money for you. So I encourage you to at least investigate it. Call Braintree Electric, ask for Ruth. I put her number here. I talked to her, she said it was okay. Or you can go on our website and get a lot of research. These heat pumps are very efficient, and they're good down to real cold, work real well in real cold weather. You don't have to take your old heating system out. You can leave it as an emergency backup, or just if it makes you comfortable. But it's a great program, and it'll save you some money. If you don't have central air, if you have those window rattler air conditioners, these units are really quiet. Everyone loves them who has them. And then the last thing is the hurricane down in Florida. devastation. We always participate in mutual aid. Our linemen love to travel and do that. They've been to St. Martin, Puerto Rico, all over, in New England all the time. Ice storms and snowstorms. Braintree's pretty fortunate where we are being on the coast. We don't get the ice storms. They're the worst. But, so we sent 4 of them down to Florida. They went to Bartow, Florida, which is east of Tampa. It's a municipal utility. That's who we support when we go down. And there were 52 from Massachusetts that went down, and a couple thousand linemen traveled into Florida to get the power back on. So it's a big effort, and we're happy to be able to help. I think that's all I have.
Thank you so
Any
much.
questions? Or?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Batigi, and I know Beld's probably the best loved utility there is, so I appreciate you coming down here tonight to give us an update. I would love to open it up to my colleagues if they have questions this evening. Councilor Reynolds?
Madam President, good evening, Bill. Thanks for coming here this evening. As you said, you went pretty quick, so
I did go quick, yeah.
which is not bad. I just want to make sure that I understood and heard correctly the existing kilowatt hour cost that we have now that Bell provides versus what you are projecting throughout this heightened price.
So right now, we're charging 14 cents, a little over to the resident, and it's a little more or a little less to businesses depending on their size.
Okay.
I see no impact to that rate from energy costs because we've hedged our energy long-term. We do have upward pressure on our rates as we try to become more green. The wind projects are more expensive than conventional projects. So going forward, there'll be small increases in our electric bill. We had a 0.5 cent increase last February. We're going through the budget cycle now, like I said. I wouldn't be surprised to see another small increase.
Okay. And the 33 cents per megawatt that you are, megawatt or kilowatt?
That's kilowatt. The 33 cents is what National Grid, when they went out for bid, got back as the low bid for just the energy on their electric bill.
For them creating energy for their customers?
For them, they don't create now, they buy.
Okay, but the difference, just to make sure I discern this from one point to another, is that Braintree obviously is still the best price around from a competitive standpoint.
Correct.
Right?
That's
Bottom line.
easy, yep.
So really, it was an exercise in comparison by quoting that 33 versus the 14?
No, the 33 is only energy. It's 48 versus 14.
Wow.
You can see that in this slide. National Grid's in the middle, and $365 is, when you add up all the line items on their bill, and you multiply by 750 kilowatt hours a month, it's $365. It's just under 50 cents, 48 cents.
And none of this would affect your ability of your other responsibilities, such as on demand when there are outages, other parts of New England, states of that nature?
No, there's a secondary issue that the state's worried about, ISO New England's worried about.
ISO, right.
And that's just keeping the lights on.
I know that you have a requirement to have to respond within a short amount of time if you were requested to support another region.
Yeah, they have, our generation is for peaking, gas turbines. And that, in order to participate in the current markets, the way they're structured, we have to be able to go from cold to full power in under 10 minutes.
Right.
We do that in like 9.5 minutes. The issue is that if we have a polar vortex this winter, there may not be enough gas because so much is being consumed by the homeowners and businesses to power the generation. And there's fuel, oil, is limited because New England is an energy island. Everything comes by ship, except for the pipeline of natural gas. Oil all comes in under the Four River Bridge around
Okay.
here.
So I just want to be clear then that so you feel confident Belt has covered that risk of that scenario that you just stated, or a worst-case scenario for delivery of energy to the Belt customers throughout?
We can run Braintree as an island, like we did in 1965.
Got it. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Anybody else? Thank you so much
Okay,
for
thank
coming
you.
this evening. I appreciate it greatly. Clerk Semino, would you be able to put these slides in with the council documents this week so that residents can have
And
access
I
to
have
them?
handouts I'll give Sue.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Right. All right, next on our agenda, we also have with us local celebrity Ann Toland to talk to us about the Marge at Crispin Center and their holiday updates. It's only October, but it'll be here soon.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for asking
mic
us
down a little
to. Thank you for having us come here tonight to speak about the Crispin Center. I have two members of my board of directors here with me tonight. Marta Guggens is our chairwoman for the board of directors, and Hank Joyce is here. The board is so supportive of the staff and the volunteers and all the work we do. We couldn't manage if we didn't have their help. That's good. But I also want to thank the town government, right from the mayor's office, the councilors, every town department, the schools department, the highway department, the fire and police. Everybody helps to make sure that this program continues. And we are approaching next year, the 50th year of the Braintree Holiday Friends. And that's the food pantry and the holiday program. We also will be coming up to 34 years with our daycare program. So it's an exciting time, and it's a privilege to be able to carry on the legacy of such a great woman, Marge Crispin. And I was very privileged to work with her, and I think of her often during the issues of the day. She was a great mentor for me, and it means a lot to be able to carry on her programs. And couldn't do it without the town, all the businesses, the schools, churches, private organizations, right down to, and most importantly, the residents of this great town. Proud to live here, and it's a very caring and compassionate town. I can testify to that. But tonight, I did give everybody handouts. I won't go into any of our past year or two statistics, but they're here for you. It gives out the poundage of food that has been given out over the year. We keep these statistics for Greater Boston Food Bank. They're a requirement, so we're very vigilant on keeping all the stats. And each year I like to share them with the counselors. And I also put out a schedule of our holiday events. So we will be distributing for Thanksgiving on the 21st, 22nd of November. And Christmas will be the 19th, 20th, and 21st, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All distributions will be done over at Pond Street because of the logistics of, we're on Lincoln Street now, but we couldn't handle the volume of people. So we will be over at Pond Street again. And we have a few dates coming up, and I did give them to you in a handout here. The Philip Cruiser Toy Drive, which is always fun, sponsored by the Braintree Police Department and Brewster Ambulance, is Saturday, December 3rd, out here in front of Town Hall. We usually get a great response for that. Jake and Joe's will be having a fundraiser for us, and it will be a dine-in on December 7th, and 20% of the proceeds will go to the center. And then the 13th annual Braintree Christmas Party will be coming up on the 8th. This year we have a new venue. We're going to be over at Campanelli's Restaurant. And admission is an unwrapped toy for a child or a gift card. So that's always a fun evening, and we appreciate the Christmas committee and all the work they do to put it together. Just a few highlights. I won't hold you long, but Braintree pickleball players have been terrific. And they had a tournament a couple of weeks ago. It was both Saturday and Sunday. And they did a fundraiser for us, and they collected $2,000 for us and over 300 pounds of food. So we appreciate the pickleball players, and we had a great weekend over there. And I just wanted to let everybody know.
It's about
Well, I
time.
will.
I'm glad they're helping out. Thank you, Ann.
They try to recruit me, but I'm not going to play. Norfolk County Labor Council is going to do a food drive. Originally, it was scheduled for this Saturday, the 22nd, out here at Town Hall, and I did receive a call late this afternoon that they've had to reschedule, and it will be a week from Saturday on the 29th. It will be in the morning, and it will be out here in front of Town Hall. They've had a number of food drives for us all during the pandemic, and very, very generous group of. It's usually between 9 and 1 or 9 and 12. I didn't get the exact time yet. I'm sure we can advertise it before the 29th. And I was contacted by Shaw's. They want to do a food drive out in their parking lot. They're coordinating it with the police department and with the corporation, because they're trying to do some of these food drives at their different locations. And that will probably be on a Saturday, and the date has not been determined, but it will be before the holidays. I'll let you people know, okay? And Life Community Church is doing their annual jammy drive for us, so we'll have plenty of pajamas again. And I don't have the date for that yet either, but they do that every year. So it's been I would say it's a difficult year, the last couple of years, and it's been for so many people. To see the need that people have had, never had a need before, and I know it was kind of difficult for them to come forward, and we've tried to make it a easy process for everybody. We also we partnered with the Braintree Community Task Force, and we instituted a delivery system. So we've been delivering groceries. We started, the first year it was every week to about approximately 50 residents, mostly elderly, disabled, and anybody with any immune issues that couldn't go out during the pandemic. So we were delivering full grocery orders, and it was done by volunteers delivering them. We're still doing it, but we're doing it every other week. And we do approximately 50 orders, so it's been good. But I thank everybody for their support and for allowing us to come here tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ann. And then for families who are in need or are looking for assistance from the Crispin Center, what is the best way to get in touch with you or your team?
Okay, we just have started putting out the applications, and one application is for both Thanksgiving and for Christmas. I've delivered 120 applications out to the different schools, and those applications are starting to come back this week. They can also come to the center with proof of residency. We just we asked just to look at a birth certificate if they're not, the applications aren't coming through the school department. If they're coming through the school department, we don't need any verification. But they can come right to the center, Tuesday, Wednesdays, or Thursdays. We have the forms right there. We'll fill them out. We also partner with the highway department to do some deliveries for those holiday fixings for the turkeys and everything, and the highway department has always done a great job delivering all of the orders for us, and those are for the shut-ins. As far as the Christmas, we will do Monday and Tuesdays of that Christmas week. There is for the parents or guardians to come pick out a number of toys, and it's usually a good number of toys, and gift cards. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do a grandparents' morning, so they can come and get a few things for their grandchildren too. And there will be turkey or ham or gift cards this year for their meat product, but we'll have the bags for the groceries, produce and everything. But they're free to call. The number over there is 781-848-2124. And we will make sure that everybody gets an application. Any of the shut-ins, we mail the application out to them.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have questions? Thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Ryan.
Again, being a counselor, we have so many good things that happen in this town, but this is definitely the best, the work that you folks do. Ann, you're an angel, and Carolyn Loud and Marta Googans, and there's hope for me seeing Hank Joy sitting with you group of ladies that maybe
He's a big
someday I
help.
can.
Wait a minute, he's a big help.
So, and Hank, and it's just the work that you folks do, it's just so wonderful, and the impact you have on people's lives, it's just, it hits you right here, and it's wonderful, and I
Well,
just think you ladies
I
and
consider it a
Hank,
privilege to see needs fulfilled. There's so many generous people in this town. I'm very proud to live in Braintree.
we're a
very
wonderful
generous
community.
community.
One of the luckiest things I ever did in my life was buy a house in Braintree 27 years ago. I didn't realize how lucky I
I've been
was
here all my life.
to move to Braintree. But thank you so much, everybody, for all this wonderful
Thank you.
work, and I will definitely see
Please
you
drop
on
by and
the 8th.
get a gander at all the toys and everything. It's always a fun day. Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Right. Next on our agenda is 06522, a master plan update. And I know we have, I want to thank again our counselors, Counselor Flaherty and Counselor Reynolds, for serving on the master plan steering committee. So I will turn it over to Counselor Flaherty and Counselor Reynolds.
Oh, thank you. The Master Plan Steering Committee has been moving along all summer, mostly in an effort to gather data. The phase that we've been working through is Braintree Tomorrow, and the purpose of that is to get an impression from Braintree residents of what they envision in Braintree of 2033. What do we look like? What kinds of activities are we invested in? Those kinds of questions. And there's plenty of fodder, because if you've ever had a conversation with anyone from Braintree and you start off with Braintree should have, Braintree should build, Braintree should fix, Braintree should try, Braintree should whatever, there's 1,000 different ways to end that sentence, and we were looking to find all of them. So the way to do that there was a survey that was conducted, and the participation in that survey was really good. There was more than 1,700 participants, and it was a long survey, so not everybody answered every single question, but that's a considerable investment. That was mostly done online. And then for people who were interested in dialing in deeper and doing kind of a deeper dive into these questions and fleshing out more complete answers and coming up with whatever your ideas were, there were meetings in a box. And those were small group discussions which followed the pattern of a format provided through a packet. So you started talking about, what are the special places that we really want to see preserved in Braintree, or important places that we have ideas for improvements. And then we talked about each portion of the master plan, everything from traffic and transportation to economic development, open space and recreation, housing and sustainability, all these issues. And people had all kinds of comments. I really quite enjoyed them. I mean, I certainly wasn't part of all of them, but I did a few. And, you just hear the most wonderful ideas from the people who live here, because we're all so different, and we think about different things. And when you bring us together, you come up with this just fabulous, holistic vision for what Braintree might be like in 10 years. So those were the meetings in the box. And then also a little bit of a shorter investment was this crowd mapping activity, which was also conducted online, although there were some initiatives over the summer and early fall to do in-person conversations with people, where the general idea was to identify a spot on a map that you thought was important, that you wanted to see preserved forever, or if you had an idea to change it and make it better than it already is, you could, put a little dot on the map and then write on your sheet what your idea was. And I got all kinds of ideas, everything from there should be a bookstore here to don't cut down that tree, or and then 1,000 different identifications of this intersection is a problem, and that intersection is a problem, and this one is a problem, and that one, and also this one. So there was a lot of that. But it was a really engaging and very rich experience, and a lot of people participated, and now the consultants have the very difficult task of trying to sort through all of that data, and it's quite a lot. And because they wanted to get as much information as they could, they extended the deadlines, so they're not totally finished processing all the data. A lot of effort has been put into processing the survey data, but that is not, and that's where they're the farthest along. But even that has more to do, and I think meeting in the box data and crowd mapping data is still yet to be heard from the committee. The next task of the steering committee will be to try to develop a vision statement and some verbiage surrounding the 5 core themes for our master plan, and that is not meant to be very specific, but it needs to touch on all the things that were demonstrated as being very important to Braintree residents, broadly speaking. So that meeting will happen on November 17th, and that is how, that will be an open meeting, so residents are invited to participate and attend, but it is expected to be lengthy. We are warned. But you are all invited to join us, and I hope that you will. So that's been my experience this summer. Councilor Reynolds, do you have something to add?
Councilor Flaherty, that was a great recap. I'll take a little bit of a different approach, but I think I want to reemphasize a couple of the points that Councilor Flaherty stated, in that this is a great opportunity for the community as a whole to be a participant in mapping the roadmap for Braintree going forward. A master plan, as we all know, has been long overdue in our community. This will map out the next 10 years. And the importance of that is that it's a stake in the ground, that the community can come together and acknowledge where we are as a community and where we want to go. But in order for us to get the best roadmap to where we want to be, we have to ensure we know where we are and where those challenges are, those obstacles that we're going to face in order to accomplish, to have the type of community we want. We need to recognize the challenges that Braintree has now, and the various categories that are covered in a master plan really encapsulizes, when you look at them collectively, what a community is made up of and what's the important priorities of our community. So the way that it's been broken down, it was a look at Braintree yesterday and today. next phase is what is Braintree tomorrow? And then the third phase is achieving that roadmap to Braintree tomorrow. And the final phase, of course, would be the plan finalization, the adoption and implementation of that plan as a roadmap, so that we can then build upon that master plan to go ahead and achieve what our community really wants. So I think the participation, it would be ideal to get close to full participation of all of our residents, particularly those who are paying the taxes, who are running our businesses, who are raising families, and then just the quality of life issues for those who perhaps don't fall into any of those categories, but are just as important as a part of our community. So I think that the data collection has been a really big, tough task for us to get through, to get the kind of numbers that we need in order to feel that level of confidence that we truly are reflecting the community as a whole and validating what those priorities are, and which, of course, will then lead itself towards a clearer path for us to be able to make Braintree what we want Braintree to be tomorrow, what we see it today, and realize its full potential. There's so many great assets about Braintree that we know about, that we enjoy, but there are also assets in Braintree that have been underutilized, that this also is an educating exercise for all the residents in town, and maybe for those residents who have a general idea of what their community, whether they're new, they've been here for time, or forever, for them to grow a greater appreciation, and perhaps this committee will be able to accomplish being able to tie together all of those important aspects that we really need to address in order to make this community the best that it can be. So I applaud the committee, the membership, the support from the council, and particularly the support of the mayor to take this effort on. And there's a lot of hard work still to be done, a lot of focus that needs to be applied, and I'm really looking forward to 2023, but I'm also looking forward to the next steps. As Councilor Flaherty pointed out, that vision statement will be a significant milestone for the committee. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Reynolds. All right, just another reminder, early voting will begin at Town Hall this coming Saturday, October 22nd. It will be running through Friday, November 4th. So here at Town Hall, if you want to begin voting, starts at 8:30 a.m. It runs until 1 p.m. For the full schedule or any questions or concerns, please call the town clerk's office. It's 781-794-8202. And a huge thank you to Town Clerk Jim Casey, his staff, all of our poll workers who work tirelessly, not just at election season, but year-round, to make sure all of our elections run smoothly. So please exercise your right to vote this fall. Are there any other announcements? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President. The Braintree Community Arts Center invites you to an open house, the Fall Fest, this Saturday, October 22nd, from 3 to 6 p.m. The rain date will be the next day, Sunday, October 23rd. There'll be storytelling, games, crafts, music, costume swaps, face painting, community tables, and there'll be a pet costume parade from 4 to 5. And that's all at the Braintree Community Arts Center at 1969 Washington Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds fun. Councilor Maglio.
You. The East Braintree Civic Association is having a general fall meeting on this Thursday, October 20th at 7 p.m. at the Braintree Yacht Club at 7 p.m. And it's a meeting that is an opportunity for everyone in East Braintree and beyond to come and talk about priorities, interests, working together. It's the first meeting that has been held since before the pandemic, so it should be a great time. So everyone should please come to the meeting on Thursday.
Thank you, Councilor Maglio. One more announcement from me. There is a blood drive to support Children's Hospital Boston. That's going to be held next Thursday, October 27th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Council on Aging. So if you are able to donate, it's a great cause, and we urge you to do so. So thank you. Anything else? All right. We will move on to our approval of minutes for July 12th, 2022 and October 3rd, 2022. Just a note, the October 3rd minutes are being approved prior to some of our other minutes due to the Tri-Town treatment plant and all the paperwork that is required to be submitted, which does include the minutes from the public hearing when it was approved. So with that, is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 12th and October 3rd?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baraka,
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty,
Yes.
Counselor Hume. Aye. Counselor Mackin.
Aye.
Counselor Maglio.
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien.
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds.
Aye.
Counselor Ringus.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Before we move into old business, I would like to recognize and thank all of our town staff and department heads who are here with us this evening. Chief of Staff Taub, the Director of Planning and Community Development, Melissa Santucci-Razzi. Our Conservation Director is here, Kelly Phelan. Our Building Inspector, Russ Forsberg. Our Superintendent of Schools, Jim Lee, and our Director of Public Works, Jim Arsenal, is here. I hope I got everyone, and if I didn't, I'm sorry, but thank you for spending your evening with us tonight. We do have a number of public hearings on this evening's agenda, so just as an administrative matter, the way this works is that we will open the public hearing, we have to vote to open it, we will then just debate it, take up the motions, hear from the public, and anyone else wishing to speak. Then we have to vote to close the public hearing before finally voting on the motion. So each one of these has several steps, and it can get a little confusing, so I wanted to explain that up front. So that will start us off with 22049, Mayor, Amendment to General Ordinance 5.600.010, Prohibition of Marijuana Establishments or take up any action relative thereto. This is a public hearing, so is there a motion to open the public hearing for Order 22049?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote to open the public hearing?
Counselor Baraka,
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty,
Yes.
Counselor Hume. Aye. Counselor Mackin.
Aye.
Counselor Maglio.
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien.
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds.
Aye.
Counselor Ringus.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will refer to Councilor Ringus, Chairman of the Committee on Ordinance and Rules, for their recommendation for Order 22049.
Thank you, Madam President. The Committee on Ordinance and Rules met this evening. We voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 22049. In essence, this is going to be changing our general ordinance 5.600.010 throughout late spring and throughout the summer. There was various meetings held and culminating with the meeting on August 2nd to the full council, where the council voted to change the zoning ordinance. The general ordinance that goes along with that was not changed. They now stand in sort of contrast to one another. So for that zoning ordinance to sort of take effect and have the powers that it is enabled to have, we need to adjust the general ordinance. So that was a unanimous recommendation from the Committee of Ordinance and Rules.
Thank you so much, Councilor Ringus, and thank you for that explanation as well. Is there anyone from the mayor's office who would like to speak on this?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. The one thing I just want to reiterate, and thank you to Councilor Ringus for that explanation, is that the proposed ordinance as drafted would continue to prohibit any and all non-medical retail sales of marijuana and would, consistent with the zoning amendments made in August, allow for cultivation and delivery of recreational marijuana.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Taub. At this time, is there any member of the council who would wish to speak or has any questions? Okay, seeing none.
Madam President?
Oh, go right ahead, Councilor Reynolds.
I still feel very strongly that this change in our ordinances by effect, which tonight's action will actually change, should have been done by the voters of Braintree. And I just wanted to use this moment to explain that that my vote will be no against this ordinance for that reason.
Thank you very much, Councilor Reynolds. With that, I would offer, does any member of the public wish to speak on this order? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing for Order 22049?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call to close the public hearing?
Counselor Baraka,
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty,
Yes.
Counselor Hume. Aye. Counselor Mackin. No. No to close the public hearing.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Maglio,
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien,
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds,
Aye.
Counselor Ringus.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan. 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
And is there a motion for Order 22049?
Yes, Madam President. Motion to amend General Ordinance 5.600.010, prohibition of marijuana establishments as submitted, current text, Chapter 5.600, marijuana not medically prescribed, general references, prohibition of non-medical marijuana establishments, see Ordinance Chapter 135, Article 18 of the Town Zoning Bylaws, and 5.600.010, prohibition of marijuana establishments. The operation within the town of any marijuana establishment is defined in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 940, Section 1, including without limitation a marijuana cultivator, independent testing laboratory, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana retailer, or any type of licensed marijuana-related business is prohibited. This prohibition shall not apply to the sale, distribution, or cultivation of marijuana for medical purposes licensed under Chapter 369 of the Acts of 2012 and regulations adopted thereto, or any successor statute. Change text. Chapter 5.600, marijuana retailers, general references, medical and adult use or non-medical marijuana establishments, Section Chapter 135, Article 18 of the Town Ordinances. 5.600.010, prohibition of marijuana retailers. The operation within the town of any marijuana retailer as defined in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 940, Section 1, is prohibited. So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Roll call vote, please, Clerk Semino?
Counselor Baraka,
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty,
Aye.
Counselor Hume. Aye. Counselor Mackin. Counselor Maglio,
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien,
No.
Counselor Reynolds,
No.
Counselor Ringus,
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
That's 6 in favor, 3 opposed.
The motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our next public hearing of the evening, which is 22053 Mayor, CPC appropriation, Town Hall handicap ramp, 773 to 793 Washington Street, AKA 1 JFK Memorial Drive, or take up any action relative thereto. Is there a motion to open the public hearing for Order 22053?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call to open the public hearing?
Counselor Baraka,
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty,
Aye.
Counselor Hume. Aye. Counselor Mackin. Counselor Maglio.
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien,
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds,
Aye.
Counselor Ringus.
Aye.
Counselor Ryan.
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to refer to Councilor Reynolds, the Chairman of the Committee of Ways and Means, for their recommendation on Order 22053.
Thank you, Madam President. The Ways and Means Committee met on this vote and voted 2 to approve. For recommended approval, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much, Councilor Reynolds. Does anyone from the Mayor's office wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Madam President. So this is a request from the Community Preservation Act funds to support the reconstruction of the handicap ramp outside leading into Cahill Auditorium. And this is specifically for the brickwork so that the ramp in its design and construction will fit in line with the historic nature of the building. It is design that has been approved by the Historic Commission and also unanimously recommended for approval by the Community Preservation Committee earlier in October. The total amount is a request for $55,000, and that will come from the CPA Historic Fund for the work.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Taub. Is there any member of the council who has questions on this time? Oh, okay, seeing none. Is there any members of the public who would wish to speak on this? Come on come on up. Can use the microphone at the podium or the microphone at the counselor's desk next to Counselor Flaherty is also working. Please state your name and address for the record.
Cynthia Brown, 8 Rose Ave in Braintree.
Thank you.
I say it should be in the front of the building instead of the back. It's kind of just saying if you have these disabilities, you should go to the back instead of being able to enter in the front like everybody else. If you were to wake up with a wheelchair, how would you feel if you were forced to go back and not be able to enter like everybody else? How would you feel if everyday tasks, something as simple as entering a door, would make it almost impossible for what people think is standard? That is something I can't imagine because I've never been through it, and I doubt either of you. But for some people, this is really serious.
Set?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You may return to your seat. Thank you.
You guys all know me.
Can you state your name and address for the
Okay,
record?
I live on Hall Ave. Sorry, thank you. Okay. I've been a resident of Braintree for 10 years, and I've been a member of the Commission on Disabilities for the past 8 years. I'm here tonight because I have concerns about the use of these funds for construction of the ramp at this time. First question is, if we're spending this much on accessibility, why are we investing this into backdoor access when the Commission on Disabilities repeatedly previously reviewed a well-thought architect design to provide everyone with the same main door equal access and made the empty building next door functional as well? As a person with a disability, many times when trying to access town services and public meetings, I've had no access because disabled people are forced to use the basement or backdoor access. These doors are often left locked during public meetings. I've many times encountered cars blocking access to the ramp to be able to get in. I've had this ramp that they're talking about replacing, left obstructed with objects, boxes, trash, wood. Tons of wood was delivered there at one point onto the ramp, and I couldn't get in and out of the building. And often in the winter, we don't have snow removed from the ramps until several days after a storm. I know this issue came up a couple months ago when the latest member of the Commission on Disabilities was approved by the council. He could not attend the meeting that night because the ramps were still full of snow several days after a snowstorm. This has happened for years. I've spoken with the New England ADA Center, which houses the Institute for Human-Centered Design, which is currently working on our transition plan, and the director of Mass Architectural Access Board about the construction of this ramp. The backdoor access may not be in compliance with 521 CMR, Mass Architectural Access Standards, and the ADA. To have backdoor access, there must be an accessible route. As the layout of the property is now, there is no accessible path of travel that gets people with disabilities from the curb cut for the sidewalk in front of the town hall to the ramps behind the building. We are forced to go through the parking lot to get to these ramps, assuming that all points of access aren't blocked when the parking lot is full during popular town meetings or events. Many times I've tried to come through to the back, Even the access aisles, the handicap access aisles, get cars filled when everybody's trying to fit their cars in the parking lot, and there's overflow at the library at these points. They'll block all the way up to the corner, and we can't even get to these ramps. Even during the day, I've run into many town vehicles parked blocking ramp access and the path of travel access. I've run into town councilors parked there and town officials parked there, and this has been an ongoing problem, and we don't have the same access as other residents. The previous designs were already made by an architect. I believe it cost the town about $75,000 several years ago. Councilor Reynolds might know more about that because he was chief of staff at this point. But it would have provided equal access to all residents through the same door. Until people with disabilities have the same access as everyone else, we live as second-class citizens and will continue to be excluded from access to government. My second concern with this is the prioritization of spending. There are currently 2 ramps in and out of this building. We do have access, however, I acknowledge it doesn't meet ADA or 504 compliance. But there are many parts of our community that are inaccessible or where access is seriously degrading. I know the street scan from 2018 showed 40.3% of sidewalk segments have non-compliant slope in Braintree. At that point, 4% of sidewalks width was not compliant. That is about 4.7 miles of sidewalk. 73% of curb cuts, which was 1,147 curb cuts, are not ADA compliant at the point of the street scan. And 28% of curb cuts have 3 or more ADA failures. Sidewalks such as Ivory Street, where thousands of Braintree residents walk daily to access transportation, or sidewalks like Allen Street, which has had a closed sign in it for years because the sidewalk has caved in. We have school buildings lacking ADA and 504 compliance. We lack audible signals for the blind at big intersections in Braintree. We have curb cuts missing all over town, placing people with disabilities at risk as we go into the street. Even outside of the town hall.
State your point.
The CPC funds, Crystal, you gotta
Right,
stay.
right.
You gotta stay on for the ramp.
This is about the ramp. Even outside along the side of the town hall, there are no curb cuts for the sidewalks abutting the town hall property. Why are we prioritizing replacing this ramp when people with disabilities encounter so many more barriers on a daily basis impacting our quality of life? Who's behind these funding decisions, and where will prioritization occur with all of the ADA's transition plan to ensure other quality of life needs are being met well addressed for all residents? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Would anyone from the mayor's office like to speak on that?
The only thing that I would clarify, Madam President, is that the majority of the funds for this project have already been appropriated. The only portion of the project that is covered by this request with CPC funding is the masonry work that is to be performed to ensure that the design is in compliance with the historic classification of this building. The other funds for the project were previously approved by this body as part of capital funding in the prior year's plan.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Taub. Are there any other members of the public who would wish to speak? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Bethany Brown. I live on 8 Rose Ave in Braintree. I hadn't planned on speaking, but wanted to hear what was going on. And in your introduction of this matter, you listed everybody you spoke to, except the Commission on Disabilities, and that concerns me because you can have nothing about people with disabilities without including them and without getting their opinion on priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Any counselors, questions? Counselor Maglio?
I'd like to speak on this. I appreciate the testimony that everyone gave. Thank you. It's hard to get up here and to speak about issues that are so important to people's basic human dignity. And it concerns me that we're making decisions that people feel like they're not respected and valued. In terms of this particular expenditure for the brickwork for the ramp, there's a backstory to this, which involves this body voting for that ramp work at a time when we were told that there was a report that was being made. Consultants had been hired to review the sidewalk scan, to then take that data and to develop a transition plan that would have identified costs and priorities. In May, we were told to expect that report in June. In August and September, we were still waiting for the report. It's now October. Additional money is being asked for this project that was voted on in good faith in June, provided there was a report that was forthcoming, and it never came. And so here we are, continuing to provide backdoor access, to make an investment in that backdoor access based on continued good faith that a report that was promised for June will come at some point and point out why this is a priority and why it should happen. And it makes me very, very uncomfortable to vote on continued funds for projects that we don't have all the information for. Now, I want everyone to have as much access as they can get. I certainly don't want to vote against something that's going to be helpful to people to access their town government. But I also don't want to see us spend money and continue to spend money on something that may not be the most pressing issue facing the majority of people in town. We heard other related issues in terms of curb cuts, in terms of audible signals, et cetera. When we're not given the full scope, it's hard to move forward on faith that we'll get the information that we were promised when we still don't have that information.
Thank you, Councillor Maglio. Any other councillors have questions, comments? I have a question, Chief of Staff Taub, if you don't mind. Maybe it's a two-part question. The first is, can you help us understand or clarify for me anyway, the role of the Historic Commission versus the CPC and the Commission on Disabilities, and how each of those bodies helped inform this decision for the ramp?
Certainly. So I want to take a step back because I think it's important, just as a refresher as to the funding for this project, because it comes from various buckets, and those buckets come with them certain limitations and restrictions. So the project itself has effectively 4 phases, each of which has various work and funding associated with it. So phase 1 is the demolition of the existing ramp and the site preparation for the new ramp. We've determined that all of that work can be done in-house, so there's no additional cost or financial burden associated with the same. And the work that's being done is necessitated by the current state and condition of the ramp. So the Institute for Human-Centered Design was engaged with in mid-March to begin the work, to begin the review of the previous scans and the town properties, to compile that data and put a report together. They have, in conjunction with the state, received an extension to provide and submit that information back to the town as part of the transition plan, which, when complete, will come to this body for presentation and review. The portion of those materials germane to the reconstruction of the ramp, including the need for reconstruction and a detailed explanation as to why that has been identified as a priority, have been included with the packet that was provided to the council. The second phase of the work is the actual forming and pouring of the concrete. That has an estimated cost associated of $115,000. That funding has already been approved through capital funding for ADA improvements, and was the subject of great discussion when we were previously before the council seeking approval for that funding. That funding must be used for a capital project to enhance or improve ADA accessibility. The third phase is installation of the railings, which obviously are another important component to the accessibility compliance of the ramp. That has an estimated cost of $45,000, also to be funded by previously authorized capital funding for ADA projects. The fourth and final phase, which is the phase associated with the request this evening, is the installation of the brick facade and bluestone cap as prescribed by the Historic Commission. This is a historic building. We have certain obligations that we have to meet when we're doing any exterior work on the site that has to be reviewed and approved by the Historic Commission. Based on that review, the determination was made that certain masonry work was required, and because it is required as a result of the historic nature of the building, we have the ability to utilize CPC funds from the Historic Fund in order to support just that portion of the work. And so that is the basis for this request. The CPC funding is not available for ADA accessible projects unless there's another CPC related component contained within the work. So what we're talking about here is just that narrow portion of the project to fund the masonry so that it is consistent with the direction from the Historic Commission. This is not about the full reconstruction of the ramp because that funding has already been approved and reviewed and approved.
Understood. Thank you. I think what I'm trying to get at, though, is the Historic Commission looked at this proposal, the CPC looked at this proposal overall, or for the brickwork, and did the Commission on Disabilities also look at this proposal or components of the proposal, maybe not the brick facade, but were they included in the conversation so we had a sense of priorities?
I honestly don't know as I stand here if the design plans were presented to the Commission on Disabilities. I know that involved in the project were several town officials who are engaged with the Commission on Disabilities, but I also would have no problem asking that this be presented to the Commission as far as the design and the work for the side. I know there has been discussion in the past about the location of the ramp, and I know that the determination that was made as a result of those discussions was that it would not be feasible to relocate the ramp to the front of the building, but I certainly would have no problem going back to the Commission and sharing the plans. The plans are public information. They were included with the materials that were provided, and certainly, able to have a dialogue. There will be more work as far as the accessibility on the side of the building as we move further into the parking lot. The parking lot work that's going to be done, because that's also going to include enhancing the handicap spaces in their location in relation to what is hopefully a newly constructed ramp.
Thank you. Councillor Flaherty?
With regard to the report that you commented on, is there an expectation that that report will contain a list of the needs that Braintree that Braintree currently has, or will it also have some commentary regarding the prioritization of those needs?
I anticipate it will be some combination of the two, just based on what I've seen in the materials related to this project, which is candidly the only report that I've seen as the consultant continues to compile. But what the consultant has done is identified this as a priority, and that is contained within the documents.
Okay, and is there a plan to fold the Commission on Disabilities into that conversation as we move forward through the prioritized list?
I expect there will be presentation at Commission on Disabilities meetings from the consultant, as well as public meetings that anybody would be available to attend to review those materials as they become available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Ryan?
Couple points. That report, when do we, I know you said it's forthcoming. When do we think we're going to see that report?
So the latest update I was able to obtain in advance of this evening's meeting is what we are anticipating is in the next 2 months, but definitely before the end of the year.
Thank you. And from my perspective, I think that it would be good for the Department of Public Works to get that report and be ready for it with next year's construction on any roadways and any curbs and any sidewalks that need to have improvements, that those get incorporated into our roads program, and any roadways that are going to be done over. It would be very appropriate for them to have that information and make sure that that information is incorporated into any specifications and work coming up for the next construction season, would be my hope. And then, funny things you never think of, like, being able to come through the front door. That never really entered my mind until I heard somebody saying it from their perspective. So just a little more on that. What kind of, discussion was there, or decisions that it couldn't be placed out front? I'm just want to get a better handle on that.
Certainly. So I can speak generally just as to my recollection, and then I know we do have our building inspector with us this evening who, just give me a nod if you were not part of those discussions, but I think you probably were part of the discussions and can elaborate. It had to do with reconstruction of the stairs, and then on the side reconstruction of the portico. But Building Inspector Forsberg, if through the chair, if I may ask you to join me at the podium and elaborate on that a little bit more. Thanks, Russ.
Good evening, members of the council. Yes, all entries were considered at one point or another. For reasons of practical difficulty in terms of the front, it would basically require or involve rather expensive and extensive structural reconstruction of the portico and the colonnade. And also, it would also involve both the the outer doorways having to be substantially improved. As you can see if you've come through the front door, the doorways do not meet ADA standards in terms of their width or operability. You'd be talking about putting in a rather large level platform in front, reconstructing extensively the masonry in the front of the building, and the, like I said, the colonnade and the supporting roof structure above. It would be a very extensive project, an expensive project as well for that purpose. Additionally, we looked at the porte-cochere entry to the side, and once again, that because of the differential in elevations of the floor, there are two essential dips. There's the outer landing and then the inner landing. That would again require some rather substantial structural changes to the building, which we're not entirely certain we could accomplish based upon the age of the building and its construction style. So the most logical place for the accessibility expenditures would be where it presently is now, the ramp to Cahill Auditorium that provided the best and most effective access to the town hall. We also have obviously the ramp that leads to the lower level of town hall, which in turn leads to the elevator serving all levels. So, and effectively, that is, those are the most popular entrances to town hall.
Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Fleury. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. So, okay, so it's really, it's too much of a change to the building. I think of the columns out in front of the building and the modifications that you might have to make just to get a platform in. But it's really something you don't think of till you hear someone talk about what they have to go through every day in entering the back door. I never even thought of it that way until it was said tonight. So what I'd like to ask is if, and this is one component of a plan, multi-part plan to renovate the access, is that we make any modifications we need to make to get to the ramp and have a clear path for access to the ramp. If we can get a promise that will be incorporated into this plan as well.
Well, that is part of the overall proposal, because the ramp is being done in conjunction with the repaving and restriping of the parking lot to the side of Town Hall, which will afford, as Chief of Staff Taub has said, accessible spaces immediately adjacent to the entry to the ramp. So therefore, persons requiring that sort of accessibility will be able to have a very short travel to the beginning of the ramp and subsequently into the building itself. It will be an improvement over what presently exists right now at Town Hall.
I think it's great having the parking there, but I know some people that don't drive in a vehicle, they drive in their wheelchair, so having the access with their wheelchair is what should be included as well.
Right, absolutely, because we're talking about taking out, islands as well, which, sometimes prove to be, obstructions to, access. So there'll be a very clear, defined access path once on Town Hall property to this ramp.
Thank you. And I feel a little bit better voting on this now, and I appreciate the building inspector and the chief of staff coming up and discussing this. And, you know, this is something, you know, the ADA access we have throughout the town, you know, it can be challenging dealing with existing buildings. It can be challenging dealing with existing infrastructure, the roadways, the sidewalks. And I really hope for the new construction we're doing in town, like even the water treatment plant, any schools, major renovation, that it's being incorporated into the designs right from the beginning. You know, I know Council Maglio has talked to me about this on many occasions, handicap access. That's something very near and dear to her heart, and I just hope, you know, it's, we need to get it right from the beginning, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan. Councilor Flaherty?
Thank you. The reports that people who are trying to use the accessible entrance have difficulty entering the building because of locked doors or blocked ramps or ramps that are too affected by weather to be safe to use. Is there a mechanism that has been put into place to address those in a meaningful way?
So I can speak to two that I was personally involved in my current capacity, and the first was an evening that was previously spoken about. I received a phone call that there was a concern about being able to utilize the ramp to get into Cahill Auditorium, and I immediately came downstairs to see for myself. What I found, unfortunately, was that the ramp had been cleared and the parking lot had been cleared, but the pathway from the parking lot to the ramp was not cleared. And so what that prompted was a phone call and less than gentle reminder, I'll say, to our hardworking folks over in DPW that it is essential when we have any kind of winter event or storm event that we are mindful not just of the obvious walkways or passages, but also getting from one to the other and ensuring that those are all addressed during the event of a winter storm. Do I think that something like that is a regular occurrence? I would hope not, but if it is something that people encounter, we have several mechanisms available for people to report it so that it can be addressed, including calling directly to myself in the mayor's office. The other that I can think of as I stand here was there was an issue with the door into Cahill Auditorium, and it was a result of the swing mechanism that addresses or that is utilized when the automatic door is put into place. And so as a result of that, we immediately contacted the contractor, ordered a new part, placed signage at the bottom of the ramp and on the door indicating that it was out of service, and markings directing individuals to the second accessible entrance leading into the lower level of Town Hall. So as these issues are brought to our attention, we seek to address them in the most efficient and quick way possible, and then we strive to learn from that and make sure that it is not something that happens again, so that every resident in this community has equal and available access to all of our buildings and all of our properties and facilities throughout the town.
Okay, so if the solution is to contact you, is your phone number posted outside so people who aren't already acquainted with you will know who to call?
My phone number is not outside, but if somebody comes to this entrance and isn't able to utilize it, if this entrance is not working for whatever reason, there is signage redirecting to the second accessible entrance on the lower level of the floor. If residents encounter difficulty throughout town or in other properties, they can utilize See-Click-Fix. They can call they can call DPW, they can call the building department, they can call the mayor's office, and hopefully we will be able to address it in a quick way possible. We welcome notice that there are issues or there are deficiencies so that we can address it, because certainly we can't be everywhere at all times, but we do everything in our power to respond and react to those complaints as they're received.
Okay, but See-Click-Fix is not an instant service, although that is a worthy service. And DPW and many people who work in Town Hall aren't available after hours when a lot of meetings are held here. So what does a person do if they can't get into the building to attend a function, but the door is inaccessible to them?
Well, I just would note again, that is not the only accessible door. If we're aware of a problem with that access point, we have a second access point. We have email available to us. There are individuals that can be contacted. I think folks, they know how to contact the mayor's office. They can send an email to mayorsoffice@braintreema.gov. They can send me an email. I'm hardly ever without my phone. So I think that we cannot anticipate every scenario, but I think that we have measures in place to address those concerns as they arise, and I think that's what we have done, and I think that's what we continue to do.
Okay, well, just one final comment.
Go ahead.
I think because we have residents here who are bringing forward stories of times when they couldn't get in and were unable to attend things that were important to them here in Town Hall, it seems like there is room for improvement, and I hope that we can do that.
Certainly, as of those occasions, the one that I am personally familiar with, I addressed myself and sought to ensure that it would not happen again. And as we enter the winter months, I am hopeful and confident in our DPW that will not be a concern this year.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Ryan for the second time.
Thank you. So we have a building person that's here every night when we have a meeting, right? So
We
I
do.
would just think you add to their duties to go check the door and check the ramp, and everything's all set.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion.
Councilor Maglio for the second time.
I would also suggest that on the signage outside, there be a number and an email that someone can write in there. They're not going to know off the top of their head. I don't know who to email if I was locked out. I doubt anyone coming to a meeting, particularly if they've just made their way all the way up and now they're locked out and probably feeling a little
Certainly.
In addition to that, you mentioned there's another entrance, and actually that entrance is also not compliant with ADA. It's too long too steep of a descent or ascent, and it's at the bottom with water and things. So that is actually not an accessible other way to get in. Both of you had mentioned that, but I think both of you have also been part of conversations where it was discussed that that is not suitable for most people in wheelchairs. Too long, pitches off. Similar to this ramp right here, the pitch is off, the railings are out of compliance. So I guess then my other question would be, how did this first ramp get built? Who, was that in-house?
I believe the ramp that we're talking about here is probably somewhere in the order of 50 years old, or maybe perhaps older. So I believe it was just something that was constructed to address the issue of
That one.
of accessibility at that time.
Okay.
Right.
And then what about this one here?
And again, I believe that similarly, I think originally there was stairs or steps going in both directions, and I think again, probably on or around the same time, they decided to install a ramp, albeit non-compliant, but nonetheless to afford access for the lower level.
Okay.
Because there was no elevator at the time in the building, so you would access the basement or the lower level through that.
Still have
and
to
then
take
and then there was a limited service elevator that was in the lobby here, if you recall that brought people from the main level to the second floor.
I don't recall, but thank you.
Yeah.
Last question is, and who will oversee the ADA compliance of this new ramp?
State your point.
Schedule a separate meeting for all these we're in a public hearing for the funding on this issue. That's what we got to discuss. That's it. Anything else we got to put on a future agenda?
Sorry, but this is absolutely related. We're talking about
It's not
layering.
about- it's
We're
the
talking
funding
about
that we're
decorating
voting on.
something that we're rebuilding.
Director Forsberg, if you can answer it, that would be great. And that's the last question.
That's it for
Yep.
me.
Certainly, yes. The building department, who's charged with ADA enforcement, would be overseeing that to make sure that, in fact, the ramp was compliant.
The ADA, our current ADA department.
Yes, it would be. We'd be ensuring that the ramp, once constructed, would conform with ADA standards.
Okay. Thank
Correct.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Forsberg. Okay. Okay, so I'd like to state that I think it's clear that accessibility issues are critical to this body. Personally, as a parent with a child with mobility issues, it's important to me. There is, for residents who are looking for it, within the town council documents that are on tonight's agenda, a comprehensive assessment by the Institute for Human-Centered Design that I urge everyone to read, because what you will see is that the ramp, which I've heard from many is an important access point to this building, is only one of many things that needs to be done, and that is in the council documents this evening. I do think it's also important to remember that the funding for the ramp has been appropriated. What we're voting on tonight is the brickwork, and I know it sometimes feels hard to separate those issues, because this is a passionate issue for many of us. But tonight what's before us is the brickwork. And the additional information, I think, the mayor's office, I urge to take to heart that our expectation, my expectation, is that the Commission on Disabilities, the people with the lived experiences, are part of this decision process as we move forward. And that would be my ask, because whether through old age, disease, for some who, through no fault of their own are disabled, this impacts every single one of our residents. It might not this minute, but it likely will at some point. So I will be voting in favor of this appropriation so that we can get this ramp built, and built in a way that's appropriate for the historical significance of this building. And I do want to thank the residents who spoke tonight, because it is not easy to come up in front of this body and speak, and we can certainly bring this back in a different forum under a different motion. Any other counselors wishing to speak? Okay, with that, I would ask, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Did you want to ask if the public want to speak?
We've had them speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Council Barica?
Yes.
Council Flaherty?
Yes.
Councilor Hume?
Aye.
Councilor Mackin? Councilor Maglio?
Aye.
Councilor O'Brien?
Aye.
Councilor Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilor Ringus?
Aye.
Councilor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, and now is there a motion for order 22053?
Madam President, motion that in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 44B of the general laws and with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, the appropriation of $55,000 from the CPA Historic Fund for the Town Hall Handicap Ramp Replacement Assessors Map 1013-1, conditional on funds expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee and the Director of Planning and Community Development. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barica?
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilor Hume?
Aye.
Councilor Mackin? Councilor Maglio?
Aye.
Councilor O'Brien?
Aye.
Councilor Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilor Ringus?
Aye.
Councilor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief of Staff Taub. Okay, moving on to our next public hearing for the evening, which is 22054 Mayor, CPC appropriation, Middle Street Trail, map 2006-01A and map 2002-01-. Request for additional funding or take up any action relative thereto. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call to open the public hearing.
Council Barica?
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilor Hume?
Aye.
Councilor Mackin? Councilor Maglio?
Aye.
Councilor O'Brien?
Aye.
Councilor Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilor Ringus?
Aye.
Councilor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor Reynolds, Chairman of the Committee of Ways and Means, for a recommendation on Order 22054.
Thank you, Madam President. On October 11th, the Ways and Means Committee did meet to review this. The vote was 2 in favor, 1 abstain for the full council on Order 22054.
Thank you very much. Would anyone from the mayor's office like to speak on this? Welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to still be here. As the council might recall, this project came before the council for a request for funding just about 2 years ago, with the unanimous recommendation from the Community Preservation Committee, the council voted to appropriate a total of $300,000 from the open space and unreserved funds for the Middle Street Manaticate River Trail project. The proposed trail, which is looking to run about 1/3 of a mile in length and be fully ADA compliant, is going to include a combination of elevated boardwalks and at-grade stabilized stone dust that will meander its way through the Middle Street open space property, and available for public view and experience of the Manaticate River and the overall property. The total estimated cost of the project was originally at $587,000, and in addition to the $300,000 from the previously approved community preservation funds, there was funding from the Massachusetts Recreational Trails Program and reimbursement from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Land and Water Conservation Fund grant program, and that was going to support the remaining $245,000 for the project. Since those original authorizations, the project design and permitting were completed and the project was advertised for bid this past summer. As we have heard on other requests for funding, the bids came in considerably higher than originally estimated, and the project is estimated now to be facing a roughly $300,000 shortfall. That includes the project costs as well as an additional built-in contingency to account for any future increases in pricing. The Community Preservation Committee met earlier this month and again voted unanimously to recommend appropriation of funds in the amount of $300,000 from the unreserved fund to make up the deficit necessary in order to continue moving forward with this important project.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Taub. Does any member of the council wish to speak on this order? Councilor Ringus?
Chief of Staff Taub. I just wanted to check. So I know when we approved this, there was the $42,000 from the Recreational Trails Program, and there was a potential reimbursement from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Did we realize that?
Yes, not potential. Once the funds are expended, it will be reimbursed through that grant program.
Okay,
Yes.
so the $300,000 is just totally inflationary costs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other counselor wish to speak on this at this time? I do have a comment to make on this, and I think this is a really important project, not the least of which because it helps us fulfill an element of our town's open space and recreation plan. I also want to make sure, and I know at the Ways and Means Committee this was discussed, and I think it's important for residents to know that this plan was originally funded as was noted, at half of this amount, which was $300,000, with the expectation that this project would be bid in early 2021 and completed in October of 2021. And there were unforeseen diversions that delayed this project. And that was part of that was an appeal of a permit that diverted staff resources and time away. So I just think it's important for residents to know that, when, unfortunately, we have to make trade-offs when we're short-staffed and don't have enough overall funding to do all the work we want to do in the time frame it needs to be done. I think this is an incredibly worthy project that will enhance the residents' quality of life, and I will be supporting this appropriation tonight. But I also think it's important to point out the trade-offs we're faced and have to make with some of our overall budgetary hardships that we're facing right now. Anyone else? Councilor Magley, go right ahead.
I'll speak now. At the Ways and Means Committee meeting, we talked about the ADA aspects of this particular project. And we were told that it would be completely ADA accessible and that it would be compliant in all of the important areas. And what I'm curious about is what happens if it's not? And I did ask that question at the Ways and Means hearing and was told, well, it will be. It will not be compliant. And so I raised Watson Park and the beautiful work that was done there as an example of this type of project and this type of investment in a project that has left now stairs where there weren't stairs and a back access to some of the recreational area.
Councilor Maglio,
and
just stay on the Middle Street Trail because
Yeah.
this is a public hearing.
Right. So because of all of these elements in Watson Park that are not accessible, what would though that hasn't been rectified, so then what would the process be should the same thing happen with this project? And saying it won't happen kind of doesn't feel like that's a real thorough way to address it.
Well, Councilor Maglio, I will respectfully disagree with the description of the Watson Park project. I provided additional information to the committee as a result of that discussion as to the work that was done as part of that project, the reason that the work was done in the manner that it was, and confirmation that the actual ADA accessible pathway being discussed remains unchanged as a result of that work. The stairs that were added were not in the accessible pathway as it existed before the project, and they were added as a result of the elevations necessary to the project to allow safe entryway into the batting cages. As it relates to this project, town officials will continue to work with the engineers and the design firm and will monitor the construction as it is ongoing, as is the case with all of the projects. And I can report that as a result of the discussion had at Ways and Means, Director Santucci Razzi and Ms. Phelan, both of whom are here this evening, have gone back, pulled the plans, and are conducting yet another review of the plans for this project to ensure that it meets all accessibility requirements, and will continue to monitor the work as it goes on through our consultants that are engaged to perform this work.
Thank you, Chief.
I
of Staff
appreciate
Todd.
that. Can I respond to that? I have full
Councilor
faith.
Maglio, just, it's got to stay on Middle Street.
Yeah, I have full faith in their comprehensive review and in their work. Who is the ADA component that will be overseeing it?
So the consultant is tasked with ensuring that the design and the construction is ADA compliant, and then as with all the projects, the building department will be consulted and engaged with to review the work and again confirm compliance as it is ongoing and completed.
Like with all projects, so that would have been who had also sort of signed off on the Watson project as well?
So again, I'm going to respectfully disagree with the interpretation of the work at Watson Park, and I'm happy to continue the discussion. I know you suggested a site visit, which we're more than happy to do.
I would love to do that.
Absolutely. And so that folks on the town and the officials that reviewed the work, and perhaps even the consultants that were engaged in that project, I think it was the Woods Hole Group, that also confirmed during the construction that the ADA accessible route was not in fact modified, and it exists in compliant form as it stands now.
Okay, because I
Thank
would
you.
definitely be interested in pointing out. Sure.
Thank you,
That it's
Councilor
not.
Maglio. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this? Come right up. Come right up. There's 2 available microphones, and please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Scott Lamphere. I live at 46 Harrison. I'm also a member of the Commission on Disability. I would like to say, and I know we're talking about the Middle Street, it's hard to have a lot of faith that accessibility will be followed through. I understand at Watson, the very circular path that actually isn't ADA compliant that gets you to the basketball court, which then gets you to a back access to the batting cages. I wouldn't take that route for my own safety because it's very, very much out of compliance and obstructed the way it is. So I think when we're looking at these projects, we also have to look at the points leading to them, because if the accessibility access is so degraded leading to a new project, it's not really all that helpful to have a new project that's accessible when a disabled person really can't access it, because everything to get to it doesn't work. And so I think we need to look at this comprehensive look and fix some of the things. There's so many things at Watson that's not accessible that I don't have a lot of faith that this new project is going to do a whole lot for me as someone who can't utilize a lot of things in town due to my disabilities. So it seems like maybe the Commission on Disability ought to hear about some of these things on the front end and have some influence in them, rather than hearing about them when everyone else hears about it and say, oh great, look what we've done. So that's just my thought.
Thank you, Mr. Lampier. Ms. Evans? And just a reminder, we have to stick to Middle Street.
Yep. I am also, as I said, a member of the Commission on Disabilities,
Evans,
and
Are you able to reach the mic?
is that better?
Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
sorry about that. As a member of the Commission on Disabilities, I share the same concerns as Scott. I've been on the commission for 8 years. My first few years on the commission, any projects that included stuff like these trails, parks improvements, town building improvements, school building improvements. I mean, we reviewed so many different versions of Peterson Pool. We're still waiting for the next one. We used to review it all before it got approved, before it went to construction. And like I said, we reviewed the plan, the architect's drawings for the main entry access, and it never went to the council. We had it first. That stopped happening a few years ago, and we're not seeing anything, and we're not even getting updates often until the construction is complete. And then we're told in an update, by the way, we built East Middle School. By the way, we installed this new playground over
Just
here.
keep it to Middle Street.
What I would like to see is the commission to be getting plans like this before the construction starts, because people with lived experience with disabilities are going to spot problems that able-bodied people might not recognize in the same aspect. So I'm asking that before this is finalized, that it goes to the Commission on Disabilities first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Chief of Staff Todd, would you like to respond to the request for the COD to look at these Commission on Disabilities?
So I think as it relates to this particular request, the construction is ongoing. I will note that we have begun a more concerted effort to send plans to the Commission on Disabilities, starting with the design work for South Middle School, and a review of the accessibility plans for that are on the agenda for November 7th. They were on the agenda for the October meeting, but unfortunately there was no quorum, so the meeting had to be canceled.
Thank you for that update. And again, to remind the counselors, tonight the topic is funding for the Middle Street Trail. If at another council meeting we can get on the agenda overall accessibility issues, if we so desire. Please bring that to my attention and to Clerk Semino's, and we'll work to get a different topic on the agenda. But for tonight, it's the funding to complete the Middle Street trails, which, if I may, my understanding is with this appropriation, a bid will go out. Is that correct?
I think it's already been bid. The
It's already
project's
been bid.
already been
Okay.
bid. That's correct.
So this is
And so the contract has been awarded, and so we have the set amount of the work, building in about a $38,000 contingency for unforeseens. But no, the project has already been awarded and is underway.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, with that, I will ask if there is a motion to close the public hearing for Order 22054.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote to close the public hearing?
Council Barica?
Yes.
Council Flaherty?
Aye.
Council Hume?
Aye.
Council Mackin? Aye. Council Maglio?
Aye.
Council O'Brien?
Aye.
Council Reynolds?
Aye.
Council Ringus?
Aye.
Council Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And now, is there a motion for Order 22054?
Madam President, motion that in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 44B of the general laws and with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee, the appropriation of $300,000 from the CPA unreserved fund for the Middle Street Manattaquit River Trail, assessors map 2006001A, 2002001, conditional on funds expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee and the Director of Planning and Community Development. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barica?
Yes.
Council Flaherty?
Aye.
Council Hume?
Aye.
Council Mackin? Council Maglio?
Aye.
Council O'Brien?
Aye.
Council Reynolds?
Aye.
Council Ringus?
Aye.
Council Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Counselor Hume, did you?
If I'm going to ask if we can take an item out of order, 22061, the mayor borrowing authorization for schools or take up any action relative thereto. We do have the superintendent in attendance, and he travels quite a distance, so if we could...
Are there any objections from counselors to take an item out of order? Okay, in that case, I'm happy to do that as well. Thank you. All right, we will now hear, this is another public hearing, 22061, Mayor borrowing authorization for school roofs or take up any action relative thereto. So is there a motion to open the public hearing for order 22061?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baraka?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. All right, we will refer to Councilor Reynolds, Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, for recommendation on order 22061.
Thank you, Madam President. On October 11th, the Ways and Means Committee voted unanimously to recommend approval for this motion.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the mayor's office wish to speak?
Starting to feel like last woman standing. Thanks, National Grid, for sticking around. So as the council may recall, the town was invited by the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, to participate in the 2021 Accelerated Repair Program for roof replacements at Hollis and Flaherty Elementary Schools. The funding for these projects was originally intended to come in whole from the $5 million approved as part of the debt exclusion. But what the MSBA requires is, in order to authorize a project to move forward, a community must have borrowing authorization for the full amount of the work. So where we already have projects in the pipeline for Highlands and Liberty, we know that the $5 million appropriated is not sufficient to cover all 4 roof replacements, and that's full value of the work, so not taking into account the MSBA reimbursement that comes to us as part of the project. We have been engaged with our project manager, PCA 360, and our architectural team from BWA Architecture, and they have completed the schematic design study at both roofs and have returned a total project cost estimate of over $9 million to complete both of those projects. That includes full roof replacement, and in the event that the value of that work exceeds the 30% building value, and then the corresponding requisite full ADA compliance for both of those facilities, that is the dollar amount that we're talking about this evening, and that is why we come before the council to request authorization to borrow the full amount. The MSBA Board of Directors is scheduled to meet next week on the 26th. This is the final piece of that puzzle in order for us to be able to submit for placement on their agenda for consideration for approval at that meeting. This is not a guarantee that we will actually be borrowing, but we must provide the MSBA with proof that we, in fact, have authorization to do so. I want to thank the superintendent also for hanging in with us this evening and for joining us at the Committee on Ways and Means last week to address questions from the council and engage in what I think was some really great substantive discussion on the projects.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Taub, and thank you, Superintendent Lee, for being with us this evening. Does any member of the council have anything they would like to say or questions they'd like to ask? Okay, seeing none. Anyone in the public wish to speak? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing in that case for order 22061?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. This is a Clerk Semino roll call to close the public hearing.
Counselor Baraka?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty? Aye. Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. And now is there a motion for order 22061?
Yes, Madam President. Motion that the town appropriate the amount of $9,342,681 for the purpose of paying costs of replacing the roofs at the Flaherty Elementary School, 99 Lakeside Drive, Braintree, Mass., and the Hollis Elementary School, 482 Washington Street, Braintree, Mass., including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto the project, which proposed repair projects would materially extend the useful life of the schools and preserve assets that otherwise are capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the town has applied for a grant from the Mass School Building Authority, the MSBA. Said amount to be expended under the direction of the School Building Committee. To meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, pursuant to any other enabling authority. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and if the MSBA Board of Directors votes to invite the town to collaborate with the MSBA on this proposed repair project, any project cost the town incurs in excess of any grant that may be approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town, in that if invited to collaborate with the MSBA on the proposed repair project, the amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the town and the MSBA. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counsel Barica?
Yes.
Counsel Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to stay, Superintendent Lee, if you want to. Thank you for joining us this evening. Appreciate that. All right. Now we're moving on to National Grid petitions. Thank you, National Grid, for sticking with us this evening. Starting with 22058, National Grid petition for 944 Washington Street, or take up any action relative thereto. I will refer to Chairman of our DPW Committee, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President. Earlier this evening, the Department of Public Works Subcommittee met and recommended a unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council for 22058.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the council? This? I would just like to add, and thank you, Chairman Ryan, this is work proposed in front of Braintree Rug Co., which is right in the heart of Braintree Square, as everyone knows. So there is a recommendation coming from the DPW, I believe, to do this as night work, so it does not disrupt the businesses in the square, and it should be a one-day or evening event with the loudest components of that work being done at the beginning of the evening. So thank you to National Grid for accommodating that and making sure our businesses are not disrupted for the gas work. That is all I have to say. Chairman, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you. So this permit is requested by National Grid. It's to repair a leak. They've identified a leaking gas main, and by law, they have the right to go in and fix this gas main. It's something that has to be done. It's in the sidewalk in front of Braintree.
Go ahead, Councilor Ryan.
Yep, I'm just being a little distracted. So it's in the sidewalk in front of Braintree Rug. They think that it will take one day to do this work, and they're going to do the work during off hours, as was mentioned, and it's going to be night work, but they'll do the work in the early evening, so before it gets people start going to bed, they'll do any of the noisy work at that time. So this is something that they do on a regular basis. So they understand the issues we have with wanting to, keep access during the day and not make too much noise at night when people are trying to sleep. We had a pretty in-depth conversation with them about that, and they're going to make sure the sidewalk is passable, is ADA compliant, and they need to get the sidewalk back into its final condition as soon as possible. And they've agreed with all these items I'm going to lay out with the motion, so I'm ready to read the motion, Madam.
Thank you.
Madam President, so the motion that National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to open the road at 944 Washington Street, Braintree, number 1480674. The street currently is under moratorium with the town of Braintree. National Grid is under the Department of Public Utilities guidelines to repair gas leaks within a certain time frame with staff recommendations. BELD has no conflicts with BELD. DPW has reviewed the subject petition with gas leak repair on Washington Street, which is subject to the roadway and sidewalk excavation moratorium enacted by the council, having been resurfaced by mill and overlay in 2020. The proposed work includes the excavation of 4x5 trench in the sidewalk area of the vicinity of Braintree Road. The DPW recommends the following conditions be met if the petition is to be granted. A temporary patch shall be placed immediately after the work. The excavation should be saw cut, backfilled, and compacted in 8-inch lifts and patched to make the area temporarily transversable for pedestrians, while also meeting ADA compliance requirements. Within 30 days of the work, permanent concrete sidewalk repairs shall be performed where all distributed sidewalk areas shall be replaced in kind, including any brick banded accent areas. While no roadway excavation is currently anticipated, National Grid should agree that if the roadway pavement is disturbed, a curb-to-curb mill and overlay patch will be required, as well as the replacement of any roadway striping and/or traffic detection loops that are disturbed. We also recommend the following requirement be added to a permit that is be granted, and that's the standard language. They can't close the road without consent from the DPW or Police Department. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barrica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Aye.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
No.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
8 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 22059, National Grid petition for 28 Dewey Road, or take up any action relative thereto. I will turn to Chairman Ryan.
Thank you, Madam President. Earlier this evening, the Department of Public Works Subcommittee met and unanimously voted to recommend favorable action to the full council on 22059.
Thank you very much. Any councilors have questions? Councilor Ryan?
So this is another emergency request from National Grid. They have determined that the cathodic protection on this gas main is not functioning correctly, and they need to go in and replace the cathodic protection to ensure that the steel pipe gas line does not corrode, causing a condition that could result in a leak where they would have to come in on a more emergency-based type format to repair. So they're requesting that they get approval to access this based on that. So the motion, Madam President, is that National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to open the road at 28 Dewey Road, Braintree, number 1458047. The street is currently under moratorium with the town of Braintree. National Grid is under the Department of Public Works guidelines to repair cathodic protection to prevent existing gas main from corrosion with staff recommendations. DPW. The DPW has reviewed the subject petition for gas main corrosion repair on Dewey Road, which is subject to the roadway excavation moratorium enacted by the council, having been resurfaced by overlay in 2020. The work includes the excavation of a 4x5 trench near house number 28. The DPW recommends the following conditions be met if the petition is to be granted. A temporary patch shall be placed immediately after the work. The street excavation should be saw cut and backfilled and compacted in 8-inch lifts paved to match existing asphalt depth with a minimum depth of 4 inches and 2-inch lifts to match the existing street grade. A permanent patch should be milled curb to crown as to provide at least 5 feet of overlap on both sides from the temporary patch for a length of no less than 12 feet and machine laid with 2 inches of asphalt top course. Tack coat should be applied to milled surfaces and joints prior to paving. Finished joints should be treated with the rubberized asphalt sealer. We also recommend that the following requirement be added to the permit if it is to be granted. No contractor is authorized to close any street or to close any direction of travel to facilitate their work. And this is the standard. You can't close the roadway language. So moved.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barrica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
No.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus? Aye. Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
8 in favor, 1 opposed.
Madam President, I really appreciate the council voting 8-1 on both of these emergency permits from National Grid and preventing any type of explosion. And I want to assure Councilor O'Brien, if there was a leak in front of his house, I would vote to have it fixed. And maybe he would vote no, but it's important that we let National Grid fix these pipes. So I don't see a lot of common sense in voting against these.
Okay, so there is one more National Grid agenda item, which I would like to propose we take out of order unless any member objects to moving the agenda around. Okay, good, okay. All right, so this one is 22064, National Grid petition 15 Hemlock Street, or take up any action relative thereto. This is a same-night action request from National Grid. This is a grade 2 gas leak, which means National Grid, under the Department of Public Utilities guidelines, must repair gas leaks within a certain time frame. Also, the town of Braintree, we have our winter moratorium upcoming at some point in November, depending on weather conditions. So does any member object to same-night action on this motion? And Clerk Semino, could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
So the roll call will be no if you do not object.
Point of order.
Councilor Ryan, state your point.
Why are we having a vote on same-night action? Usually, don't we just ask if anybody's
Well,
against it?
Just because we have to do the roll call with a remote.
We have to do a roll.
Counselor?
Yeah.
Yes. So just to clarify, if you do not object to same-night action, your vote is no. I do not object. So you're saying no.
No, I don't object. Got it.
If you do object, you say yes. So now do a roll call vote. Councilor Barrica?
No.
Councilor Flaherty?
No.
Councilor Hume?
No.
Councilor Mackin? No. Councilor Maglio?
No.
Councilor O'Brien?
No.
Councilor Reynolds?
No.
Councilor Ringus?
No objection.
Councilor Ryan?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right. So with this, I would ask, is there a motion?
Yes, Madam President. Motion that National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to open the road at 15 Hemlock Street, Braintree, number 1501725. The street is currently under moratorium with the town of Braintree. National Grid is under the Department of Public Utility guidelines to repair gas leaks within a certain time frame. Your consideration and cooperation is very much appreciated. All work will be completed with staff recommendations. BELD has no conflicts with BELD. DPW. The DPW has reviewed the subject petition for a gas leak repair on Hemlock Street, which is subject to the roadway excavation moratorium excavated by the council, having been resurfaced by total reconstruction in 2018. The work includes the excavation of a 4x5 trench near house number 15. The DPW recommends the following conditions be met if the petition is to be granted. A temporary patch shall be placed immediately after the work. The street excavation should be saw cut, backfilled, and compacted in 8-inch lifts, paved to match existing asphalt depth with a minimum depth of 4 inches, and 2-inch lifts to match the existing street grade. The permanent patch should be milled crown to curb as to provide at least 5 feet of overlap on both sides from the temporary patch, but for a length no less than 12 feet, and machine laid with 2 inches of asphalt top course. Tack coat should be applied to the milled surfaces and joints prior to paving. Finished joints should be treated with rubberized asphalt sealer. And then the standard, you can't close the roadway without permission. So moved.
Thank you very much, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
No,
Go-
Madam President.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to ask National Grid if they can describe and explain the situation here and why we're getting this, how we're
Would
getting
someone
this
from
tonight.
National Grid like to come up, please?
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan.
Good evening, thank you for having us. The location at 15 Hemlock Street, to just be transparent, the gas leak seems, from the map and the sketch that I have, to be actually in the lawn and on the curb. But if it ever did have to go to the street, we just want to disclose that where it's a moratorium street, that we'd like the permit to be granted.
Councilor Ryan?
So we have a gas leak on somebody's front lawn?
Yes.
In the curb in front of their house?
Yes.
And you folks need to get in and fix it?
Yes.
And in case you have to go on the roadway, you want permission to do that?
Correct.
Thank you.
We don't want to do it after the fact, we'd ask for permission up front. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Councilor Ryan. Anybody else? Okay. All right, we do have a motion and a second, so we can have a roll call vote, please, on 15 Hemlock Street.
Counselor Baraka?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin?
Aye.
Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
No.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
8 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you very much. The motion passes. Thank you for sticking with us, National Grid. Have a nice night, or you can stay if you want to. All right. I think we get to move on to receiving money next, so that's a plus. Let's take up 22060, Mayor, Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund, or take up any action relative thereto. This is also a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing for order 2, or is there a motion to open the public hearing for
So
order
moved.
22? Thank you.
Second.
Clerk Semino, roll call vote to open the public hearing.
Counselor Baraka?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I refer to Chairman Reynolds of the Committee of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam President. On October 11th, the Committee on Ways and Means voted unanimously in support of this motion.
Thank you very much. Chief of Staff Taub?
One last time for the evening. So as the council may recall, this funding comes from the Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund, which was created by the state about 5 years ago. And what it does is it affords communities funding based on rides that initiate and end in Braintree from what we refer to as TNCs, Transportation Network Companies, commonly our Lyfts and our Ubers. As you might recall, in 2021, we saw a slight decrease in the funds that were available, but happy to report this year that we are back on an uptick. In 2021, rideshare companies provided about 39.7 million rides. It started in Massachusetts, which is a 12.5% increase over the rides in 2020. Of those rides, a total of 269,431 started in Braintree, which for us is an increase of 20.42% over the rides from 2020. Of those rides, 60,379, or 22%, were local rides, and those are rides that both start and end in Braintree. So based on that data and the state's calculation, the total revenue coming to us this year is $26,943.10, which again is also an increase over the funding we saw in last year's revenue to the town. And that funding is dedicated for transportation-related projects to be overseen by DPW with reporting requirements to the state for how those funds are utilized. So what we're looking for this evening, is authorization to accept those funds from the trust fund and appropriate the same to DPW to be spent in accordance with the statute.
Thank you very much. Any counselors have questions on this? Chief of Staff Taub, do we know, is there an earmark? I know it's going to roads or DPW in general. Do we have a target for this 26,000?
I don't believe the specific projects have been assigned yet for this funding.
Okay. That was all I had. All right, this is a public hearing, but I don't see any members of the general public here. So before we close it out, are any counselors have any other questions or comments? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Counselors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Baraka?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for Order 22060?
Madam President, motion that the sum of $26,943.10 received from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund be appropriated to the Department of Public Works to be spent in accordance with Statute 2016, Chapter 187, Section 8CI.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. I believe that closes out our old business for the evening. So we have 2 items under new business. The first one does not require a vote, and that is 06322, Council President 2023 meeting calendar. So we would like to set the meeting dates for the 2023 calendar year and book the required conference rooms. You should have all received a copy of the calendar. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to Clerk Semino, and we will vote to adopt this at an upcoming town council meeting. Okay. 06422, Council President, Town Council meeting November 1st. I would like to propose that we cancel our November 1st meeting. The reason being this auditorium will be used for early voting, so BCAM will not be able to live stream the meeting or televise it on cable the same night. They can record it, but it is not optimal. It's not live. It will be uploaded the next day. Secondly, there are no voting matters on the agenda for November 1st. So I would like to ask if there is a motion to cancel our November 1st, 2022 Town Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, is there a motion to move all orders under new business to their respective committees?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus?
Aye.
Counselor Ryan?
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you very much. All right, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. As always, thank you so much to our team from BCAM for sticking with us this evening, Wes Ray, Bill Needham, Jerry Comack. We really appreciate you getting us out to the residents. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much, Councilors Ryan and Hume. Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Barica?
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty?
Yes.
Counselor Hume?
Aye.
Counselor Mackin? Counselor Maglio?
Aye.
Counselor O'Brien?
Aye.
Counselor Reynolds?
Aye.
Counselor Ringus? Counselor Ryan?
That is unanimous. This meeting is adjourned.
That was a long one.